History remembers him as a monster, a king with 6 wives, 2 executions, and a trail of blood behind him. But before Henry VIII became England's most feared ruler, he was something else entirely. A gifted child, a charming prince, a golden promise. So what went wrong? And when did the boy destined for greatness become a tyrant feared by his own people? Before we unravel the brutality, the betrayals, and the broken kingdom, make sure you're subscribed to my history profiles, because stories like this aren't just about dates and deaths. They're about power, obsession, and how ambition can destroy everything it touches. And trust me, this story only gets darker from here. Henry Tudor was born on June 28, 1491, inside the royal walls of Greenwich Palace, just outside London. He entered the world not as a future king, but as a spare, and that single fact would haunt England for decades to come. His father, Henry VII, was the first Tudor king, a man who seized the throne after years of civil war by defeating Richard III at Bosworth Field. It was a fragile victory. The Tudor claim to the throne was weak, disputed, and constantly under threat. Every breath the dynasty took depended on one thing: a secure male succession. Henry's mother, Elizabeth of York, was the daughter of King Edward IV. Her marriage healed a nation torn apart by the Wars of the Roses, at least on the surface. York and Lancaster were united, but the scars of civil war never truly faded, did they? 7 children were born into the Tudor household. Most didn't survive. Disease, infancy, silence. One by one, they vanished. Only 3 lived long enough to matter politically: Arthur, Margaret, and Henry. Arthur, older, serious, and groomed from birth to rule, was England's hope. Henry was not. As the second son, Henry was raised differently, not burdened by destiny, yet surrounded by privilege. Studied languages: Latin, French, Greek, Spanish. He learned philosophy, history, rhetoric, excelled in music, athletics, and debate. A prince without pressure, and without limits. But could that freedom be dangerous? As a boy, Henry was adored, especially by the women around him. His mother, his sisters, his grandmother, all doted on him relentlessly. Some historians believe this upbringing shaped him deeply, fostering both intense romantic passion and explosive rage when denied what he wanted. And then everything changed. On April 2, 1502, Prince Arthur died. Suddenly, mysteriously, possibly tuberculosis, possibly the deadly sweating sickness. No one knew for sure, but England felt it immediately. In a single moment, the line of succession collapsed onto the shoulders of a 10-year-old boy. Henry was no longer the spare. He was the future, and his father never let him forget it. Henry VII tightened control. The carefree childhood vanished. The jousts Henry loved, forbidden. The risks he craved, denied. Every move was monitored, every impulse restrained. And resentment quietly began to grow. While Henry VII ruled with caution and financial discipline, raising taxes, alienating nobles, young Prince Henry became a symbol of hope. A bright, athletic alternative to a grim, mistrusted king. England didn't just want him to rule. England needed him to be better. But even as Henry prepared for kingship, another problem loomed. Arthur's widow, Catherine of Aragon. She was Spanish royalty, the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella. Her marriage to Arthur had been a diplomatic masterpiece. Arthur's death nearly destroyed that alliance. So a new plan emerged. What if Catherine married Henry instead? Years of negotiations followed. Had Catherine and Arthur consummated their marriage? If yes, Henry could never marry her under church law. If no, then perhaps. The question lingered, unresolved, dangerous. Then, in 1509, Henry VII died, and England exhaled. At just 17 years old, Henry was crowned King Henry VIII, tall, handsome, charismatic, a warrior poet king straight out of legend. 3 weeks later, he married Catherine of Aragon. The marriage began with hope, genuine affection, respect. Their coronation dazzled the nation. Golden cloth, roaring crowds, endless feasts. Henry reveled in tournaments his father once banned. The court overflowed with music, wine, and ambition. This was supposed to be England's golden age, and at first, it almost was. Catherine became pregnant quickly. The future seemed secure, but then disaster, a miscarriage, A daughter lost before she could live, then a son, Prince Henry. He lived just 7 weeks, and grief returned. More pregnancies followed, more loss, stillbirths, silent cradles. Yet Henry did not turn cruel, not yet. He remained patient, supportive, hopeful. Why? Because in the 16th century, loss was common. Catherine could conceive that mattered. Together, they ruled as partners. When Henry invaded France in 1513 chasing glory, he left Catherine as regent, and when Scotland invaded in his absence, she rose. English forces crushed the Scots at Flodden. Their king lay dead. Catherine sent Henry a piece of his enemy's coat as proof. She was no weak queen. In 1516, Catherine gave birth to Princess Mary, at last a living child. Henry adored her, called her my pearl of the world, treated her like an heir. But something still gnawed at him. England had never accepted a ruling queen before. Deep inside, Henry knew it. A daughter was not enough. That hunger for a son was quietly becoming an obsession. By the end of the 1510s, England still celebrated its king. But beneath the feasts and tournaments, a question loomed. What would Henry become if that son never arrived? And how far would he go to secure his legacy? By the early 1520s, the golden glow around Henry VIII had begun to fade. The laughter at court grew thinner. The smiles became cautious. One question echoed louder than any trumpet or drum. Where is the son? Catherine of Aragon was aging. Her pregnancies had ended in grief. And every passing year tightened the noose around the Tudor dynasty. Henry had watched England tear itself apart once already during the Wars of the Roses. He would not allow it to happen again. Not on his watch. At first, Henry did what kings had always done. He took mistresses. In 1519, one of them, Elizabeth Blount, gave him a healthy boy, Henry Fitzroy. The king acknowledged him proudly, lavished him with titles, displayed him like living proof. I can father a son, Henry had proven. So the problem in his mind was no longer himself. This was Catherine. Still, he did not move against her. Not yet. Instead, Henry chased glory on the battlefield, on the seas, and in the courts of Europe. He expanded England's navy, dreaming of an empire beyond the horizon. He played diplomatic chess with France and Spain, dazzling rivals at the Field of Cloth of Gold in 1520. Gold tents, endless feasts, jousts beneath silk banners. But beneath the spectacle, Henry was restless. Empty victories could not secure his bloodline. Then everything changed. Her name was Anne Boleyn. She was clever, sharp-tongued, different from every woman Henry had ever known. And most dangerously of all, she refused him. Anne would not be a mistress. She would be a wife for nothing at all. And that single act of defiance lit a fire inside Henry that would burn down an entire kingdom. He wrote her letters dripping with obsession, sent gifts, waited, chased, and slowly, disastrously, Henry convinced himself that God was punishing him. His marriage to Catherine was cursed. Why? Because Catherine had once been married to his brother. Henry turned to the Bible, specifically Leviticus. If a man shall take his brother's wife, it shall be childless. Childless. The word haunted him. In 1527, Henry made his decision. He would divorce Catherine, would marry Anne, and nothing, not even the Pope, would stop him. But Rome refused. Pope Clement VII was trapped politically and physically by Catherine's nephew, Emperor Charles V. Granting Henry an annulment would mean humiliating one of the most powerful rulers in Europe. So Henry waited and grew furious. His greatest ally, Cardinal Wolsey, failed him. And in Tudor England, failure was fatal. Wolsey fell, stripped of power. Dead before Henry could finish destroying him, then came new men, new ideas. Thomas Cromwell, Thomas Cranmer. They whispered something revolutionary into Henry's ear. Why should a king bow to a pope? Henry listened. By 1534, England broke from Rome. Henry declared himself supreme head of the Church of England. Parliament obeyed. Those who refused died. Sir Thomas More, Henry's friend, mentor, and conscience, was beheaded. Catherine of Aragon was cast aside, stripped of her title, separated from her daughter. Anne Boleyn became queen. She was crowned in splendor, pregnant, triumphant, and then She gave birth to a girl. Elizabeth Henry smiled, but disappointment crept in. Anne miscarried again. And again, the king's love cooled. His temper sharpened. By 1536, Anne Boleyn was no longer a queen. She was a liability. Accusations flew. Adultery, incest, treason. The trial was swift. The verdict inevitable. Anne died on the scaffold, calm and dignified, while Henry waited to marry again. Her replacement, Jane Seymour, gave him what no woman before her could, a son. Prince Edward was born in 1537. Henry wept with joy. Jane died 12 days later, and something inside Henry died with her. The man who followed was heavier, sicker, angrier. A jousting accident crushed his leg, leaving a wound that never healed. Pain consumed him, so did paranoia. He destroyed monasteries for gold, crushed rebellions without mercy, executed friends, ministers, and wives. Anne of Cleves divorced. Catherine Howard beheaded at 19. Thomas Cromwell executed. Only his final wife, Catherine Parr, survived him. By the time Henry died in 1547, England was unrecognizable. The church was broken, crown was feared, and the son he sacrificed everything for would die before adulthood. In the end, England would be ruled not by Henry's sons, but by his daughters, Mary, then Elizabeth. And under Elizabeth, England would flourish. So the question remains, was Henry VIII a ruthless tyrant who tore his kingdom apart for pride and obsession? Or a desperate ruler shaped by fear, haunted by civil war, driven to extremes to protect his dynasty? History still argues. Now it's your turn. What do you think of King Henry VIII? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to my history profiles for more untold stories behind history's most powerful figures. Because sometimes, the crown costs more than anyone expects.